This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Coming to you live from the sewer lair of the Rat King, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom Show with your hosts, Hassel and Monster. And Monster, we are into round 2 of our March Mega Madness.
Yeah, so this just for the listeners here, listen, that's what we're going to do this week. So this week we'll do the round 2 winners and review how those fights went and, give a little discussion on those. And depending on how long that goes, we're going to do that first. And if that doesn't go that long, we're going to throw in some Geek Week here. If it does go that long, we may have to skip that again. We're not sure yet exactly how long we'll babble on this time. But after that, next week we go into the quarterfinals or this week, at the end of this week, the quarterfinal voting will start. Next week we will be discussing the winners of the quarterfinals and setting up the semifinal rounds. Now, for those rounds, the quarterfinals will announce here on the show whoever wins that for the semis. But for the semis, those will actually get announced on our social media just because of the fact that we're going to be going out of March instead of extending the March Mega Madness for all of April too. We're going to let it go. The first one the semifinal winners will be announced via the social media. So you'll see the finals participants there and be able to vote on those on social media after we've announced the semifinal winners. And the final winners, we will actually discuss that final fight and give the winner of that away on the actual first show that we record in April. So that's kind of how we're going to do it. So we will bleed into April a little bit, but that's okay because we got plenty of time to go through this.
It'll be WrestleMania time anyway, so who doesn't want a good battle at WrestleMania time?
Which is true. That is, what, the 6th and 7th?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Which, before we lead into this, did you watch Raw last night?
I have not made it through it yet. I was traveling, and I watch it the next day anyway because
without delving into it,
I started on it. I got through the first
spoilers.
40 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, the Cody promo was like on point. Cody, he broke into Attitude Era. Cody, kudos for that. The rest of the show, I'll be honest, fell flattered and pissed on a plate, as Jim Cornette says. It was, it did not seem like a 3-week out from WrestleMania Raw. I've seen up through Cody doing his promo with Paul Heyman in the ring. That's the last thing I saw, and I turned that off right before we started recording. So that's as far as I made it. That turned out to be a really good promo, and then you got a couple of teases throughout the rest of the show for that. So Nia and Becky were okay match, and you got the tease from Mommy at the end, but that. I don't know, man. Nia Jax is somebody could just go away, and at this point, Becky could too. She's not what she was 3 years ago.
That's fair, but I can still watch her. I just can't watch Nia. So
yeah, the human injury machine is just fucking brutal. Did you see where Sasha Banks just shit the bed with her AEW debut too?
No,
or
but
Monet.
I have not heard.
No needle turned at all. No one. No more viewers than what they typically had.
Well, they're not going to. She's not that important. But besides that, have you also seen, just because I was going to share this in case we got to Geek Week, but since we're talking a little bit of wrestling now, so we always talk about the stuff that AEW does, both good and bad. Same with WWE, but, WWE have been ruling the roost on bad news with all the stuff with Vince and all the legal stuff. Now it's AEW's turn. They have all kind of legal stuff popping up where they paid an NDA for some guy who was an agent or used to be a wrestler but was an agent for him. Now they paid an NDA to his wife from a domestic dispute case, or they paid her out a payment and a settlement, and she signed an NDA, but there's still a lawsuit ongoing for this domestic abuse as well.
It's not age still, is it?
No. So they paid. So apparently this was, I don't remember the person's name. I'd have to look it up, but apparently he had a domestic dispute with his wife. She claimed that he abused her. He was an agent for AEW. This had nothing to do with AEW other than the fact that he worked there. But they
didn't want the negative press.
They paid a $40,000 payout to her, and supposedly had her sign an NDA, but she still has charges pressed in the ongoing legal case, even though she signed an NDA and got paid out by the company for this. So it's the state attorney started looking into it and say, wait a minute, why did they pay you money? You don't work for them.
Yeah.
They're like, why are they paying this?
Because they didn't want the negative press because of all the negative press WWE was having. But like Tony Khan's just shitting the bed all the way around.
Well, wait, this payout was years ago. This was back towards the start of AEW. It's just now making the legal cases there because a lot of legal stuff was held up because of COVID. So these personal civil legal trials are just now coming to light. And it's like,
makes you wonder how much it's going to pop up on Chris Jericho in about another 6 months.
Well, not only that, but then they also got legal troubles where they're you can put a disclaimer out there all you want to. I owned a weightlifting facility, family did, and I can tell you signed those things saying if you get hurt here, it's not on us. But for the only way for that to hold up in a legal court of law for anything like that is that they have to prove that you did everything possible to not have any negligence.
If there's any loophole, you're screwed.
Yes. Same thing goes for wrestling. If you go to a show and somebody gets thrown over the rails and lands on you, okay, you're at a wrestling show, is kind of expected. You might get by with that.
The Darby Allin spot.
Yeah. The shattered glass going into the front row. There are people saying that they are going to sue because that's not an expectation of being in a wrestling match. The glass is going to be shattered and come into the front row on you when you're sitting there. You cannot just put up a legal disclaimer on the screen, which they do before every show, that says, please try to move out of the way. The first thing the judge is going to say is, what did you do to help prevent this accident from happening? And you say, well, we told them to move. That's not a prevention. That is not a proper mitigation.
At some point, you're putting fans, you've done put your talent at harm. You know what? Yeah. I'm a huge AEW fan. I've been a day oneer. Like I testify match quality wise for them all the time. However, Al Snow, he had a hell of a point. And I typically don't agree with this cankerous old asshole because he really comes off that way. He's very Jim Cornette-ish and on certain Pacific Jim's funny. But Al's not. But he's literally, and he was going on the other day, he says, someone is going to die at an AEW show. He said, you mark my words, in the next 2 years, someone will die at one of these shows. And he's not wrong. They're doing ridiculous spots. And Tony's agreeing to this shit just because he's letting the inmates run the asylum. And now he's all like furious at Jack Perry. Like, he's not that he hasn't been the entire time, but it's like he's seething more and more. Like every time he sees Punk show up on Raw, or the anticipation, even though he's hurt. Look how well they use him hurt.
Yeah.
AEW just said go stay home when he got hurt. They didn't use the fucking mouthpieces, which is what he's actually most, important for. To where WWE has. They said he's getting more furious by the week with Jack Perry, so he's just going to pretty much pay this kid out his contract. Not use him.
As bad as that stuff is, the thing that gets me is that somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody on the front row is, because all the stuff that they do where they throw stuff out. Like, you cannot tell me that disclaimer, if you get in the ring with a pizza cutter and it comes flying out your hand and stabs somebody in the head in the front row, you're still going to get sued. And your legal disclaimer that you put up there, please try to move, is not going to protect you in a court of law. You are done for.
They're right there with ECW in the mid-90s, other than the fact that ECW's fans were so fucking ravenous, they took it as a badge of honor they got hurt. Like, oh yeah, motherfucker, I got a cut at the show last night. AEW fans aren't, because they're a bunch of, as Rock says, Cody crybabies, and they're going to cry.
Well, and they're entitled, because remember, poor people don't like AEW, so it's just the rich folks there.
Hey, that's wasn't our statement, it was someone else's, but we're just re-quoting.
But seriously, and everything that they're doing is just an excuse for how, it's the fans' fault. They should get out of the way. The fans should set their DVRs for longer because the shows. No. You're not treating this as the right business model, and somebody is going to get hurt. And honestly, I don't blame them if it's the folks with the glass, because it's an expectation. You could say it's an expectation of being there that somebody falls over the railing and maybe even lands or kicks you in your seat there. Okay, you're that close. It kind of happens. You see that happen. Glass flying in the air over you is not an expectation of a wrestling match at all.
It is crazy because they put on such great matches. Like they're going to have Ospreay and Danielson. That's going to be an amazing match. Ospreay and Takeshita will wind up being a great match. I mean, it was a huge deal. You know what? I'll be honest. I was one that when I heard they signed him, I was like, okay, he's good in the ring. He's not that. But he cut a fucking promo this past week. I was like, whoa, this kid can actually talk. You know, because they hadn't displayed that in the past.
Yeah.
He could actually talk. He cut a hell of a promo. And it's like, and now Triple H is catching heat for this because they're like, he's realizing he fucked up because he just thought he was a great worker. Another, you know, AJ Styles minus the mouthpiece. So he just, now he's like, ooh. But if they don't turn a major corner, even with those performers, by All In, what is that, August? Somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Their TV deal's up at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So if they don't turn one hell of a corner by August when an All In goes, they're going to be without a good TV deal. And they're going to be right along the lines of what TNA Impact was when they started going to Access and places like that. The stations that no one fucking knows what the hell it is, or you're watching them on the internet. And internet wrestling will not sustain you. Streaming, maybe. Internet, no.
Yeah. Well, and you can't tell me that they're in the black in the books either, just because you just look at the video game. I mean,
Ooh,
I was trying to
pull
it up.
It bled money.
I was trying to pull up to find just the cost, but even the reviews and the scores are not even more than a 6 out of 10 anywhere.
You know what? I think Cody was probably the best when it came to EVP, and they had Cody was probably who kept Tony on track, honestly. And without Cody there, the Guns and Omega, they have not been good advice for Tony. And Tony, I think at this point thinks that he knows everything because of their initial start and the hype behind him. Meltzer blowing smoke up his ass because Meltzer, I get aggravated. I don't even like why he is still relevant today. I do not understand because he the comments he makes are the most asinine things. It's like, how are you even still making money?
Yeah, I can't say much about anything he says because he's the one who said that the poor people don't like AEW. It just realizes some of that, and then he makes every excuse possible to blame the fans for AEW's shortcomings. I'm like, dude, it's not their fault. They just watch it.
Well, he's one of those New Japan, I'll suck them off people. And like he literally said that Ospreay signing with AEW is going to be bigger than Cody going back to WWE.
Oh shit!
And that Cody's no longer a star over there, and that Ospreay is the biggest star in the world. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, listen to yourself. I got Edge over there cutting massive, great promos to an empty arena, and it's not COVID.
So before we move on, I tried to look this up to find the game profits, and it's all I could find on the game was that it exceeded the $10 million budget it was given, which caused a lot of conflict between the development staff and the AEW management. But however, I did find the AEW's estimates for the year of 2023, and I'm assuming that this is either probably already come out and finalized for 2024, and we just haven't heard it. But while Tony Khan and crew were trying to tout to one wrestling network that there was $154 million in net revenue in 2023, all other sources say that the AEW is going to incur at least a $34 million loss in 2023, with $85 million going to talent and other operating expenses.
Holy shit!
So he's trying to say they made money, and as he says, everything is great because he says that 500 times in an interview. This says that they lost at least $34 million last year by all of the sources other than his.
That don't sound so great.
His was the only one that reported that they were going to make money. But the legal trouble that they're going to get themselves in is going to cost them enough. If it doesn't just cost them money, it's going to cost it to be shut down.
And at some point, Shad Khan's going to step in and say no. Because, this man has a major league football team. And, he had to have people getting shattered up and hurt at his stadium and NFL contest. So you think he's going to tolerate this shit for very much? No.
Well, that's the other part of it, right? How long before somebody does get hurt at one of these events and all the arenas tell you can't come in here because guess what? When that lawsuit comes, they get named in the lawsuit too because they're going to ask them too, what did you do to stop it from happening?
That's exactly what I was supposed to say. All State Arena or someone's going to be like, hey, you can't come here. Last time you was here, 4 fans got hurt.
But I mean,
no,
all
come back.
All those disclaimers you sign for everything, none of them mean anything unless you can truly prove that you did everything possible to mitigate. Like you go park at a hotel, because I'm at a hotel right now. You could tell by the background. It says out there, you park here at your own. You assume all responsibility or losses for parking here. You know what? If this hotel doesn't have a gated parking lot, no, I don't. I can sue you because you didn't mitigate the responses. I've had principals at schools that my son goes to tell me, hey, you signed that waiver for him to ride the bus. That's really just more of a scare tactic because you can still sue if something happened on that bus and you had a wreck. I mean, it's everywhere. So, I mean, they're responsive. Let's put it on.
It just means you go to a court of law and it's up to a judge at that point is what it really boils down to.
Now, you have Tony Khan has better chances because he can buy some of those judges with the money he's got. However, that just means he can't sign his favorite new wrestling toy next week.
That's his biggest problem. He's signing too damn meaning. I mean, if some of these guys knew they couldn't just go there and make more, they'd probably shut the fuck up at WWE.
Yeah, but it's going to be really interesting to see where they go. But speaking of how things go, let's look at the tournament. So let's see where we're at after round 2 here. So let me pull up the bracket and then share my screen so that we can see it on the screen.
You're the best around.
We'll let you keep singing that.
No, we will not.
So, can you see my screen, sir?
I can see your screen.
Not gonna say you can read it this time, but you can see it at least.
It's there. It's more legible than last time.
So we are.
Doesn't mean my eyesight's improving.
So we have made it to round 2, and in round 2, let me do that. Our first fight is these are so painful to move on here. Our first fight, let's start this off, will be Goku versus He-Man. Actually, let me read these out for real quick. So round 2 is Goku versus He-Man, and the winner faces Optimus Prime versus John Wick. Megatron versus Skeletor, with a winner facing the Flash, Barry Allen, or Spider-Man. 8-Man Actor versus Darth Vader, facing off against the winner between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Zarathos. And for the final part of the round 2 is Superman versus Starkiller, facing off against the winner between Rao the Conqueror and Dr. Doom. So now, with that being read, let's go back to this first fight, Hassel. Goku versus He-Man up first.
I'll be surprised. Honest, this one surprised me. I was expecting the interneters to go hardcore Goku. He-Man pulls it out with 60%. I mean, it wasn't a lopsided one way or another, and it was, apparently a good battle between the two. But He-Man pulls it out with 60% on this one.
This is the fight that I would have most liked to have seen on screen. Now, I'll be honest. Personal preference, I would have went with He-Man just because it's personal preference. But I could see reading this in the comic or seeing this on TV how this could go either way, depending on who's the final, whoever's making the final determination on the writing here. But yeah, I'm actually surprised, but I would have went with He-Man on this one personally, just for personal preferences.
The Twitterverse got a little loud on this one right here. They were speaking up on it, and Facebook they spoke up a good bit. Like I said, we had a few private messages and whatnot, and then we had some non-page followers do some voting. I was kind of surprised. There was some names I didn't recognize on there, and then my wife she went and voted, and yeah, that was something else too. That's a story for the end of the show.
So let's move straight into the next fight then, just because we were running a little bit. We talked a little bit longer than I thought we would at the beginning before we got into it. So let's go straight to this next one. We'll say Optimus Prime versus John Wick. And I gotta tell you, looking at this one, outside looking in, I'd have said Optimus Prime all day long.
The comments we had was Optimus Prime just steps on him and it's done.
Yeah.
However, with 52%, John Wick for the win.
Wow. I am
so here's what surprised. This is what I'm gonna theorize. John Wick shows up with his pencil. Him and Prime start kind of, filling each other out or whatever. The mob shows up, and Prime realizes John Wick is a pure at heart man and takes a knee and submits to John Wick and gives him an energon weapon for the next round to go with his pencil. It's the only way I see this happen.
I'm not going to argue with you because I don't have any other basis other than to say I'm surprised that that's the win. But we'll do the same thing.
It was a narrow margin. It came down to the final vote. Like literally, they were neck and neck for a long time, and then John Wick pulled like surprisingly ahead on Instagram. I think at one point he was 60 or 70%. And I was like, wow, really? So, and that was one that this is where I'll say my wife choosing. She said, well, I knew who John Wick was. I said, all right, babe.
There's no accounting for poor taste in raising people.
I'm trying. We're almost getting there. She said she knew Optimus Prime. She really knew John Wick. She related to him.
So I would say we'll do at the end of the show too what we did last time. Or at the end of the bracket, we'll come back and say, okay, what's the best looking fight going into the next round, the one that stands out, and what was the most surprising fight at this round? But let's move on to Megatron versus Skeletor. And Hassel, I'm gonna let you say first who you would have voted for in this one because I know who I would have voted for, but I want to hear your opinion first on this one.
Smart money is Skeletor just because he is a sorcerer, and if you take the filmation Skeletor out of things, he's not the bumbling boob that he was. My sentimental favorite was Megatron all day.
I believe I went with as powerful as Skeletor can be at times. I just see him being surprised by the giant actual thinking robot with an AI because most of the robots, other than Roboto, you really don't have much of that in Master. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I would have went with Megatron if I'd have been voting on this one. But how did our fans vote?
And another narrow one, 52% again. Skeletor squeaked it out. And I was most surprised at Casey, of all people. He was so pro Skeletor on Facebook. Like literally, he said Skeletor would be worse than Unicron on Megatron and turning him his bitch Galvatron. I read that comment. I was like, wow, Casey, he's some cool points here, buddy.
That's a surprising one.
It was. It honestly was. But hey, that's what this tournament's about. The power's yours, guys. I mean, we tell you this. We mean it. It's yours.
Well, I think that's kind of the way you put that kind of leads straight into how I think Skeletor would have won this on paper is, hey, they go to face off. And while, yes, Megatron is probably outside of Skeletor's normal realm, like, what's the chance of Skeletor just, gets a portal open and blasts him with some mystical energy? He's through a portal and gone somewhere else and somebody else's problem.
It comes down to one of those Mike Tyson punches. If Megatron has that fusion cannon on him, he's done. There's no prayer for Skeletor. Can he evade long enough to, and apparently he does by 52%, he evaded long enough to do, like you said, and sweep him into another realm.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it that route, then yeah, obviously. But
that would be fun too.
Yeah, let's move to the next fight and see who pulled out between Barry Allen Flash and Spider-Man. And I'm going to give my opinion on this one first. As much as I love Spider-Man, I think Barry can attack him before even Spider Sense can go off because he moves faster than the speed of light.
He does, and
thankfully,
I
think the fan vote probably didn't agree with me, but
thankfully, 70% of our fan base were logical human beings like myself, and knew that Peter Parker has faced speedsters before, and whoops the shit. Or as The Rock says, took that belt and whoops the shit out of Cody Rhodes and Barry Allen.
He's faced speedsters, but I will make the argument none of those speedsters are on the same level.
You know what? I will say Barry Allen is the next level speedster. He is probably the speedster of all speedsters in all the universes. I will say this, though. This was the point I made to Casey. Jeff Johns ruined a lot of people with the Flash by making him just God level in his rebirth on. Because let's face it, he has lost to the fucking Trickster, the Pied Piper, Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang. These are some of the lamest fucking villains to lose to, and he has lost to these people. Just saying. He has the weakest rogue gallery of any hero.
Oh, dude, I would disagree on that because Trickster, some of them maybe, but Captain Cold, Heatwave,
Mirror Master.
Dude, that's actually a much more dangerous villain than
that's Will-O-the-Wisp.
No, sir. He controls multiple dimensions inside those mirrors. Yeah, that could be dangerous.
That's how I get you guys riled up, honestly.
But let's move to this next fight, which was 8 Men After versus Darth Vader. I got a feeling that my vote of Vader would have probably taken this one because I just can't see 8 Men having quite enough to pull this one out.
80% Vader, and I love my boy 8 Man, but it went exactly how I figured it would. I mean, I gave him a little sentimental vote. And surprisingly enough, at one point it was 50-50, and I'm not talking about like with just 2 votes. A good little while, 8 Men held his own. So I mean, he had a respectable battle at least. Apparently, he held his own up to like the last day, I believe it was.
Wow.
And then at the last day, Vader 80%.
I just can't even imagine how that fight goes because I mean, honestly, it's as cool as 8 Men After was, and you know he's got his power, his level of abilities with it being a cyborg and all, but Vader
he does have accelerated speed, so maybe his accelerated speed threw Vader off a little bit. Now that Vader is more Frankenstein lumbering, maybe it threw him off a little bit, and he couldn't. There's really not a lot of life in him, so he couldn't. Maybe threw his connection to the Force off a little bit with sensing where he's going. So I think maybe movement speed.
You think that, but at the same time, think about how the Jedi were always able to deal with the droids and stuff like, oh, we're fixing to get shot at by the attack droids and stuff. So
yeah, those what was the ones that had the little force fields that would do the rolling thing, the big ones?
Oh, the battle droids.
Those were fucking beasts right there now.
Yeah, it's still an interesting thought on the fight. I mean, I'm not surprised Vader won, but it's more of a
no. This is one I knew was going that way. I like when my boy made it out of the first round. I said, "You know what? I'm proud of you. You're an obscure anime from the '80s, and you made it in the second round, but you're not going any further." Especially when I seen who he was lined up against. Like maybe had he got someone else, but no.
So let's look at who won the next fight to see who's going to face off against Vader. Because depending on how this goes, we may have an epic rematch in this one. I'm not sure who won. I know who I would have voted for. I would have probably voted Zarthos just because I think he's going to end up being more powerful in the end because of his mysticism. But I'm not sure how the fans went.
The fans went 60% Zarthos, and then how he don't make it to the finals, I honestly don't know, just power wise. But dude, 60%. Obi-Wan held his own for a while. Obi-Wan pulled ahead for a while. Twitter coming to play here. Facebook, things of this nature. So, Zarthos got 60%. And sadly, our boy Obi-Wan, he is now probably residing in hell.
I would have liked to have seen the Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader rematch be as a voting on here. And I'm really surprised it wasn't because we're doing fan vote. And I thought Obi-Wan would be more well-known. Not saying Zarthos is obscure, but compared to Obi-Wan, he is.
It would have been fun. It was like the potential of, Prime and Megatron. We do have the potential for He-Man and Skeletor.
We do.
Possibly.
We do. So let's move to our next fight and see who the potential winner of this one is between Starkiller and Superman. So who would you, before we announce the winner from fan vote, who would you have went for in this?
Superman, obviously. I mean, I'm a huge Starkiller fan. I love the actor that voices him as well as the storyline behind him. I think that's a huge missed opportunity if they don't make that into live action at some point. But Superman, obviously. I mean, it's Superman.
Yeah, we were picking on Big Rob because he's a huge Star Wars fan. I just basically said F Starkiller. There's no way he's beating Superman in this fight. In my
I think you might have had Big Rob's House of Entertainment. No Chinese food worked up about that.
I just don't. Honestly, I don't care who you throw on this list. To me, at the end of the day, for me, it's going to come down. Can they defeat Superman? And 9 out of 10 times, it's going to be no, probably not.
I think you got under skin about the Force lightning. I tried to play devil's advocate for a minute on that one there, and I was like, I'm gonna back off.
I was trying to push a button there just to see what I could rile them up to.
I think you did, the reset button.
So how did the fans actually vote on this one?
Surprisingly enough, 65% Superman. It was close for a while. This was one that come down to the final, last 3 hours, I want to say. Because I remember looking at 5 hours out, and it was 50-50.
So that's
I was like, wow.
Well, I don't think this is the most surprising outcome of any fight of round 2. I would say this is the most surprisingly close vote. I just figured this would have been a landslide.
Oh yeah, I honestly assumed that Superman was going to run away with this, but no, we got some Star Wars fans in our fandom here, and I'm loving it, guys.
So if we look at that fight realistically, this is what I told Big Rob for folks who were wondering, is that Big Rob was like, the Force is mystical and Starkiller's got these powers. I was like, most of the Force powers come across as physical displays of power. So while Superman is vulnerable to, yes, mystical powers, it's not like there's a whole lot of mystical bolts hitting him other than the lightning. And he survived Shazam's lightning a good bit. And actually, it just hurt him a little bit, but he kept going. So I'm like, if that didn't stop him, I don't think Starkiller's lightning is going to stop him. I think he just, physical powers don't equate the same to, just because they're mystical in nature, don't equate to them being able to defeat Superman.
And for anyone that's kind of interested in that right there, if you're not a reader and don't want to read Kingdom Come, just go to HBO Max and watch the episode of Justice League Unlimited called Clash, where it actually pits Superman and Shazam against one another. He's actually Captain Marvel on there, like he should be.
Yes.
Great episode. One of the best episodes of the series, actually.
Yeah, and actually, I rewatched that one recently. That one and the one where Superman
fought
Captain
Adam. It holds
Adam.
up really well.
Yeah, we rewatched. They started rewatching X-Men episodes this past week.
I have been on a kick of that as well. That's actually what I was doing prior to recording. I was rewatching the last few episodes of season 5.
We have not watched. I told the kid this weekend before, because it comes out as we're recording on Tuesday the 19th. It comes out on the 20th or sometime around. Well, it's not quite midnight, but sometime after midnight tonight.
3 a.m. Believe me, I would be awake at 12, so I did looked.
I've not watched it until this weekend because I want to watch it with the kid, and I'm out of town for work, and I won't be home until Friday evening. But what I looked at on it was, we got to watch the last episode of the original series, and then we can watch the first 2 new ones because they're releasing the same day. But we did go back and watch some of our favorites, like Cold Comfort, the one with Iceman. We watched Beyond Good and Evil, the one where they face Apocalypse on the time stream. So we checked out a few of those.
Well, we should have time in another show maybe to touch on 96, because I want to get your insight on a few things. But let's move into the final battle, Monster.
Yes. So Dr. Doom versus Raoul the Conqueror. I got to tell you, I just assumed this was going to be a completely Dr. Doom landslide and it would be over with.
It was not. It was not. This was 50-50. A large portion of it. And it come down to 2 people that don't even pay attention to our Instagram that went Dr. Doom, and a couple Facebook votes. Facebook was 100% Doom, but Dr. Doom by 52%.
I'm surprised that's that close at all.
Apparently, we've got more Fist of the North Stars than we realized, and you know what, respect, because I love Fist of the North Star myself too. As much as I love Raoul, honestly, I can't go against my boy Doom. I can't.
Wow. Well, so I know you want to maybe touch on X-Men 97, and we still got Nerd Out to go, and I've got to check the timer after we get off the shared screen to see how long we've been going. But let's run back through these real quick. So the next round of fights, the quarterfinals, He-Man versus John Wick, the winner of which will face the winner of Skeletor versus Spider-Man. Dr. Doom versus Superman, and the winner of which will face Zarathos or Darth Vader. Ooh. So all very interesting fights. But let's.
I'm just gonna give my perspective on this right here. I feel like Wick's luck is bound to run out unless that energon weapon really works. Spider-Man will do better than people will give him credit for. What was the other 2 fights?
Doom versus Superman and Zarathos versus Darth Vader.
If there's ever a chance for an upset, Doom could do it to Superman.
That could be a possibility.
Because I will say he is more plotting, powerful, intelligent than Luthor. And Luthor comes close sometimes with a power suit. And Doom is Doom has the mystical abilities.
He does. That would be an interesting one. I think looking at these though, the most interesting fight to me, the one that stands out the most is probably Spider-Man versus Skeletor.
That would be a fun one.
Because to me, that's the one. Because Skeletor's got mystical powers, but Spider-Man has fought villains similar to him before. Whereas I think that He-Man and John Wick's a blowout. Just looking at these perspective of who I thought would win, not necessarily who I think the fans are going to vote on, but the rest of these for me would be landslide fights.
Oh yeah. I mean, and you know what? Our fans may surprise us, but you would think you could visualize the finals from here.
You would think so, yes.
But you know what? We've been surprised a few times already. So the fact that my boy John is still in this,
that's the most surprising fight from the
and
last
if somehow he gets past He-Man, I don't even know how I'm going to explain that next week. I need to start thinking now how I can wrap my brain around this in case it happens. Because our fans may surprise us.
That's an easier explanation than you think it would be. He just catches him when he's Prince Adam and asleep.
Ooh, I mean, he is a fucking boogeyman. Baba Yaga don't play.
So yeah, that'll be interesting for next week. But with that, as always, we will have the brackets up on the. We will have those out there. Hassel will post them all on the onto the social media.
Everywhere.
I kept trying to get rid of that extra box that popped up on the screen.
They're on Instagram, Facebook, and the Twitter.
But with that, Hassel, let's see where we are on time here. Let's see. So yes, we have about we've still got Nerd Out to go, and we're right at time. So let's touch very quickly on anything you'd like to on X-Men '97, and then we'll go straight to Nerd Out from there.
So I mean, we're obviously all excited. I mean, we were teens last time this was actually hitting airwaves. Now we're middle-aged men. That sounds terrible to say, but it is. What are some of your favorite episodes of the X-Men series itself?
Probably my absolute favorite was the one with Iceman, just because you got X Factor, you got Iceman in it. It's the cameo stuff.
That was a very cool episode. It was.
Beyond Good and Evil, I really enjoyed. That's the one where they fought Apocalypse in the time stream. I really like that one. I like any of the ones with Angel, Archangel, and Apocalypse in them. I will say that while he didn't have much screen time as just Angel, the artwork for Angel on the show was just stunning to me for whatever reason. He just looked fantastic when he was just Angel. I liked him better as Archangel as a character, but just the look of him, the way they drew him was cool.
They always come off more menacing. Like Angel, you feel like you could get over on. You can't do that with Apocalypse.
That might be.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think back to the other. There's a lot of them that I really enjoyed as far as favorite of those, and then both the ones, because I think Nightcrawler was in two of them, and both of those were fantastic.
Which one was he in other than the Mystique episode?
What was that?
Which episode was Nightcrawler in other than the Mystique episode? I remember the one with Mystique and Rogue, Family Ties or whatever it was.
There was the one before that where he was first introduced and he met Wolverine, and he was the priest of the church. And Wolverine was like kind of losing his faith a little bit, so he helped him out with some of that.
That one.
That was a really good one.
I do.
I really liked the one with Colossus against the Juggernaut in the first season as well.
There's so many episodes that you kind of forget about, but then when you think about it, oh man, this was great, and because that one was a really, really good one. I like the Mega Red ones.
Those were good. Overall, the entire show was really good, but there's just some of them that were really, really enjoyable to watch. I think that's the ones that stand out the most to me is the ones I named off. The later season, I didn't care as much for the last season just because they changed the art style and stuff. And I don't know.
It was kind of hit and miss from what I'm noticing because, like I said, I kind of watched some of it here and there throughout the last season. And like you have some episodes towards the later end that like match the art style from previous seasons.
Yeah.
And then you had like some peppered in. It's kind of like Transformers, when you had the G1, because you would have certain seasons where episodes were like animated in one place versus another, and some was better than the others.
That's a fair point. But with that, I think that's a very good segue into Nerd Out. And I say that because my question will center around X-Men 97. But for anybody who hasn't been here before, this is the part of the show where we ask random questions around the topics of the day. And since we've been doing the March Madness tournament, we've had some very random questions. But we ask these with little to no prep time for us to respond. But we'd love to hear your answers as well in the comments. Or if you want to expand upon any of our answers in the comments, please feel free to do that. But as I said, this was a good segue into the questions for me today because my question is about X-Men 97. So with that starting up this week, in honor of that show and the tournament we've got going on here, what is your favorite X-Men rivalry?
In the show?
Show or comics? The best X-Men rivalry you can.
Ooh. That's a damn good one, Monster. Because it's hard not to go with like the most simplistic one, like Wolverine and Sabretooth.
Yes.
I mean, it's very hard not to just choose that, but I don't know. The part of me that just loves Executioner Song so much, I'll probably say Archangel and Apocalypse.
That's a very good one. I never even when I put the question on paper, I was like, I know that this is a lot of people are going to look and say, hey, Sabretooth versus Wolverine, but I'm not a huge Wolverine fan.
Right there.
To me, I actually went with the team rivalry. I mean, and I'll let you talk about Apocalypse versus Archangel too, but I went with X-Men versus the Sentinels.
Ooh.
As much as it is to say X-Men versus Brotherhood or X-Men versus Magneto or whatever, the Sentinels is a very simple concept for them because it's the X-Men, these superpowered mutants who are hated and persecuted for what they are against these robots who are, they're robots, and that's kind of their whole architecture is it's this man versus machine, but take it and the machines were only created because the lower level of evolution of man said, hey, we're not going to let this go on, and we want to stop these. So that to me that just stands out, and on the show
that's
especially.
Going to be a huge part into the new season rolling on.
Yeah, it stood out in the first one because that was the very first episode, right? It was like, and the first story arc for the first whole season was against the Sentinels. But with that, let's go back to your Apocalypse versus Archangel and talk about that a little bit.
Dude, that is just like the Maker versus the Sun almost. Because, even though he was a horseman, Apocalypse had aspirations for, hey, this is a guy that's going to, cultivate my ideology. He's going to move forward and be, the next generation, so to speak. Then it's the father versus the son, so to speak, in a lot of ways. He wants to kill him throughout, and seek redemption, but he's still battling within himself the whole time. There's this conflict within, but versus the villain at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good one. I always thought that it was interesting because it was, Archangel having to fight that baser instinct that Apocalypse brought out in him to be his agent of death. So
he made him into a true instrument of death and made him into something, but he has to battle against this.
Yeah.
And okay, as a quick aside, as fun as the Apocalypse episodes are, do you feel like the Sinister episodes might have been a little more true to the story and maybe important than the Apocalypse ones?
Yes, because I'm not sure if they thought Apocalypse was going to be their big bad. I think they were just using him as a big bad to fill in certain spots or to do certain stories. But they used Sinister for an overarching theme a couple times, and along with that, the Apocalypse voice. While it was a menacing voice at times, it was also like over the top sometimes too.
Yeah. Sinister's voice is just eerie. That's one. If I heard it in the Annabelle movie, it would creep me out. Like,
yes.
That dude, he nails it.
That one was creepy, but the Apocalypse one was like, he would just get so grandiose and over the top and yell at you like this. And
I was watching his Resurrection with Fabian Cortez just earlier, and I was like noting that honestly in my mind. I was like, oh my God, he is like just.
Watch the fourth part, Beyond Good and Evil, and there are several times where it does it.
Oh, he goes into that.
But then he had some really cool ones, like when Deathbird's like, you promised to kill a lantern for me. He's like, I lied. And just walked away.
It was like, gotcha. You thought I had you, but I do not.
So what is your question this week, sir?
So, I'm going to stick with our tournament. We were discussing Megatron and Skeletor earlier.
Right.
Okay. Let's just battle out a little bit for me. And where does he shoot Megatron off to? And how does that end?
Oh, geez. So you're talking about where does he send him off to?
Well, we established here he basically sent him off in a Stargate somewhere to another realm, universe, multiverse, reality.
So I'm going to go with this then. I'm going to say that just because Skeletor is such an evil asshole, he does not just send him away. He sends Megatron off to the dimension where My Little Pony exists.
Wow.
And Megatron is just like, what the hell? And he is just so depressed because he is in this land of My Little Pony. And it's not like he can kill them because it's like Looney Tunes. Like, they just don't die.
You blast them and they just like...
How torturous would that be for Megatron to be stuck there for millennia?
People, you now see why he runs Cobra. The wicked mind within this man. Wow.
It's either that or he gets sent to, I don't remember where they live, but where the Care Bears live. So they can give him a Care Bear stare.
Oh, my goodness. All that worse would be if you went to gummy bears and jumping here and there and everywhere.
Side note, do you know who actually sang the Gummy Bear song?
I do not.
For the show? It's the same guy who did the voice of Simba, the singing voice for the Lion King, and you'll never believe who that is.
I'm all ears.
And I can't remember what other he was actually in a band and they released a single song that several songs, but one of their singles was very popular. Is it I'd have to look at it to tell you right before I say the wrong one, but anyway, it's John Williams' son.
Really?
Yeah. John Williams, the greatest composer of movies at all time. It was his son who actually sang the Gummy Bear song.
And I'll be thinking this song will be in my head the rest of the night. And I only have me to blame for this, but yeah, it's there. And for those of you that read Transformers from Image Comics now, the newest issue just had a harken back to Stan Bush's "You Got the Touch" to it as well, because literally Prime is resurrected and goes to battle Devastator, and it goes, "You know the song," like in the foreground. It's like, oh, these motherfuckers.
Oh man, so his son it's Joseph Williams is his name, but he was the lead singer of the band Toto from 1986 to 88.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
He was also Simba the Lion King. Yeah, the voice of Simba the Lion King on the movie. Man, what is the song that Toto sings that was it "Take Me Away to Africa"? Is that it?
That's what I was just sitting there thinking. I literally thought it was Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, that was him. That was him.
Literally, when you said Toto, I had that dun 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 hit me in the head, but it's like, is that it? Like I was trying to think, like, am I right?
He sang that. He sang the Gummy Bears theme song.
You know what? If you can only sing two things in life, one of those two is right.
Yeah. Fun fact of the day.
Well, leave it up to you guys to decide which one of the two.
I saw that the other day on something, and I was like, I did not know this. Now I'm intrigued.
All righty then.
So
I will go.
Where would you send Megatron?
I will go with this. These two reach an accord very early on in their battle when they're feeling each other out. You know, Megatron's like, you fleshling, yada, yada, yada. Skeletor says, we're not as different as you think. They reach an accord. And he tells him, I can send you to Cybertron right now with no Optimus Prime, no Autobots. You're a leader. You can make more Decepticons. Poofs, Megatron, the Cybertron via Starfield, and it's over for Cybertron, buddy.
Well, knowing Skeletor and how he double crosses, would he send him to Cybertron or would he send him to Gobatron?
Ooh. How fun would it be for him to beat up Psykill and take over the whatever they were?
Well, you know, after Hasbro purchased that property from Tonka, it became that Gobatron was a colony of Cybertron.
This is true. I don't think he'd be happy with a colony. Maybe he just beats up Psykiller and enlists them at least. They beat up Leader 1. And he tells him, once you help me take over Cybertron, I'll let you go back and rule over Gobatron.
Oh, yeah, I can see him.
As long as you're subservient to the Decepticon calls.
That's fair. I can see him doing that.
See, people, we never fail to deliver, even on what ifs.
But we failed to deliver getting out of here on time. So with that, Hassel, that gets us close to a close today. But before we leave, tell everybody where they can find us at.
You can find us on Facebook via Hassel Hutchinson. You can find us on Instagram, The Nerdy Manroom Show. You can find us on Twitter, nerdy.mr show, and TikTok, the.nerdy.manroom.
And also, don't forget to check us out on Geek Network, which has, Hassel, I don't know if we've announced this on here. I know we have on some other social media, has become part of, so make sure I say this right, Metal Ninja Studios. And we will have this week you'll still see the Geek Network banner. Next week we will hopefully have a new one on here as well for Metal Ninja Studios. But check us out on there, and don't forget to go check us out on Fire, Roku, any kind of streaming service where you can get Spotlight Media. Yes, thank you. I was waiting for you to get that. You were looking for it.
It's always right here, baby. It's always there.
While you're checking us out on all those platforms, don't forget to also go check out our friend and extended Nerdy Manroom family member, Big Rob. You can find him on Big Rob's channel of Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese.
No Chinese food. And Monster, you missed it on our Metal Ninja Studios roundtable we had last Thursday. Chris Daly set me up for that. He's watched enough of the show that he's like, Big Rob House of Entertainment, and he paused for a second. I was like, he set me up for it. So I
saw part of that. I didn't get to see all of it. And I didn't get to be part of it. I was actually still traveling at the time. And
unfortunately.
Actually, at the time that you recorded that was on Thursday night? I was in Dallas, Texas, and there were baseball-sized hail falling. So I was like, I could hear it hitting the windows outside. I was I'm not going to get on. I'm just going to pack my bag so I can get out of here early in the morning and get back home. But very interesting trip there.
The Dominator was out of control.
Yeah, it was. And don't forget to go check out our sponsor. We want to give a big thank you to The Zone Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs. Help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And make sure you stick around and check out the end credits so you can see some of our special shout outs to some of our friends and extended Geek Network family members. Their details will be in the closing. Join us here next time. We're going to check out the next round of March Madness Melee, talk about X-Men 97 a little bit. Until then, live nerdy and survive the fight.